All right, ladies and gents, I'm with my latest guest. Welcome to Boss Up with Mr. Key, where we talk to the bosses, and hopefully the bosses can inspire you out there, the listeners and the viewers. But today is a special guest. I met this lady several years ago, and she's multiple properties, had a excellent career in HR. And at some point, she just said, you know what? I'm sick of corporate. Like, I'm sick of punching the clock. And she jumped out on her own. And now she's growing this successful business called Bella Vista Aesthetics. And without further ado, I want to introduce our next guest, Jeneice Fuss. How are you today?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. It's always a pleasure. We've known each other for a while. And I've seen your progression, and so I think it's exciting to be able to give you the opportunity to share that. So one of the first questions we always ask, just to kick the show off, is where did you walk around? Where did you have your first taste of baby food? What location?
Like literally, baby? Like literally?
Yeah. Where were you? That's just a slick way of saying where are you from?
Right. No, I got you. So I was actually born in Montego Bay, Jamaica. Yes, I'm an island girl.
Not the wine. Great. So Montego Bay, Jamaica. Wow. How long did you stay there before you came to the States?
I believe I was probably about 6 or 7 when my parents left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have, no wonder why you have that hustle. Island women just have a different level of hustle, I can see.
That is true.
Yeah, so are you the only child, middle, baby?
I am the oldest of 3.
Oh, okay. 3 boys, girls? How's that
So
dynamic?
I have a brother and a sister. My brother is the middle child, and then my sister is the baby.
Oh, so you're like cooking and everything.
I was doing, and it's true. Jamaicans have been known to have multiple jobs, and so I kept with the the narrative, and yeah.
16 jobs, man. No, just kidding. So you had multiple jobs. When did you have your first job?
I was probably about, let me see, I would say I was about 16.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That's good. So before we talk about job ages, all right, so you all came from Montego Bay, and where'd you land from there?
We went to West Palm Beach, Florida.
West Palm Beach, Florida. Was that where you went to middle school? Or?
Mm-hmm. For the most part, I grew up there, and then from there, well, during that time, I kind of dabbled around different things, but really focused on, I was really artsy. I was a really artsy student. So a lot of, drawing.
Were you a doodler or?
I actually took some
Real
classes.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. How'd that become a passion? You just kind of.
Just from a young age, my parents saw that I, as far as being a creative, I was, and they really pushed that. They got me into adult classes. A lot of times I was like the youngest, I was the child in the class with all these adults.
Man.
So yeah, so it'd be
some kind of like a prodigy. Wow. So that started young there. And then, so when did it dissipate, or is it still something that you just kind of revamped into something different?
So I was always a girly girl. I was, really into beauty, fashion, all of that stuff growing up. And so picture this, I'm in high school. I'm with my little friend group, and we're walking around, and so one of the next classes we had, we're going to have the military recruiters come in. And my friend said, we could just go ahead and skip that class because you're never going to join the military. I mean, like I'm the girl that's walking around, like I would have like full makeup on, and everybody's like, where are you going? And I'm like, to check the mailbox. So that's how I was. So my friends were like, there's no way you're joining the military. And that, I don't know, that kind of fired up something in me, like, wow, is this how people see me? Like, I can't, you don't. And the worst thing you could do is tell me I can't do something. So then I went to the recruiters, and of course they're low-key salespeople.
Right,
so
they got you.
the next thing you knew, I was signing up for the military. So I joined the Army like right after high school.
What was the name of your high school that you went to?
Palm Beach Gardens High School.
Palm Beach Gardens High School. Shout out to anybody from Palm Beach.
Gators
The
fans.
Gators. Oh, whole state, the Gators. So, I mean, so wow. So in high school, you kind of developed, and you may have had this as a kid, but it sounds like if people told you no or you can't, you always tried to go against the grain.
Absolutely.
Did mom give you stories about, like, even as a kid that you did some stuff like that?
I mean, I know it's definitely a lot of it is from her. She was a go-getter herself.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I definitely had that as an influence for sure. Yeah.
Two-parent household?
Not the whole time, no.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So high school, so you're a girly girl. You got little sisters though. How often did they get in your makeup? Was she getting in your makeup?
Well, the good thing is like we had a little bit of an age gap, not too much,
Oh,
but
okay,
so
okay.
we didn't really share the same friends and stuff, but she was I love her so much. She's still the closest family that so
She's
yeah.
like your baby.
Yeah, she
almost.
is my baby.
So man, okay, going to high school. What kind of student were you? Were you?
I was a good student. I would say like overall throughout my whole throughout the whole time that I've been going to school, everybody always saw me as, the student that I've been called the catalyst. I've been told that I wish I had 26 of all my kids would be like you. And so I growing up, I was always kind of the teacher's pet a little bit. And then, but I also still had like this whole other kind of maybe semi-secretive life that I had. That
You were at the parties at Palm Beach? Palm Beach?
But it was fun. It was good times.
That's good. That's good. So the catalyst, that tells me a little bit. It sounds like, to me, when I hear that, I hear like the leader. Would you have considered yourself like displaying those leadership skills then, or did it take time before
I think it took time, but I was always at the forefront of a lot of things. Like our school, my high school specifically had a magnet program,
Oh, okay.
which we were kind of the first to launch that as far as our graduating year. So in that group, a lot of the programs that they had were new to us.
So you're just basically, hey, I'll raise my hand, make me the guinea pig. But that was an excellent program. Like those programs have, developed, and, I probably to this day, I don't know if they severed those yet, but who knows what's going on in schools. So from that point, military, like again, that was all. It was almost. It sounds like it was like a bet. Like
it was absolutely it was. And I will tell you, it was one of the most challenging periods of my life because that was so far from the personality that I have, from the upbringing that I had. I mean, it did help that it was structure, and I did have a lot of structure growing up. But I mean, as far as, just the environment that I was raised in, it's a very different environment. But I would say, so I got into the medical field. I was in hospital administration.
You were in the Army as far as the branch, and then your MOS was basically like in something in the medical field, right?
Yes, it was hospital administration.
Hospital administration. How many years did you serve?
Only 4, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that was, so here it is, like I joined and they were kind of like, okay, they have these field exercises, they call them notional exercises. So they're just pretend,
Right.
and they're probably like, this will never probably happen, but we're just going to train you guys how to do this.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I trained in Fort Drum, New York. So it was very cold there.
I didn't know they had a military branch in New York. Wow.
Yeah,
Fort Drum.
and then, funny enough, we had a war in the desert, so it's kind of so that was interesting. But yeah, so I will say that the experience that I had from that definitely shaped the way how I saw life in the future, and that it pushed me to do a lot of things that I did because I figured if I can survive all of that, because right when I joined the military, then 9/11 happened. So all of these things that they said would probably never happen, then it did. Yeah.
Wow.
So, so it was quite an experience. It was quite an ordeal. But it shaped me in the way that I take things head on now. Like there's hardly anything that
just like, hey, there's no hesitation. Like I'm going to jump right in.
Yeah.
I was just talking about my daughter. I'm like, hey, I'm probably going to send you to the military if you don't have any plans. And of course her mom like, oh, I heard these stories for women in the military. It's not a good thing. It's horrible. And, she tends to always look at the horror stories. But as a woman in the military, a Black woman, like, what was your experience like? Did you see the horrors, or how did you avoid them? Or is that totally wives' tale?
It's definitely not a wives' tale, but I would say, like you said, it's how do you navigate that? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna, I mean, there are definitely victims in situations,
Mm-hmm.
but I just tried to have first of all, a plan. If you're going to join the military,
Yeah.
it's not a bad move. I would say, especially if you're wanting to serve your country,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But and benefits wise, it's amazing,
Right.
But when you go into it, definitely have a plan because again, if you don't and you just go into the recruiting office and you say, oh, I just need a job or I'm not really sure what I want to do with my life, but I want to join the military. Oh, they'll
Right.
sign you right up for whatever
Oh, whatever
is.
you want to do, you have to have an exit
You
strategy.
have to have a plan. So
Okay.
if you they have some aptitude tests you can take if you're not certain what that plan looks like. They'll
Okay.
help you kind of guide you.
Mm-hmm.
But also do know it's like and again, my background too is in HR. So
Mm-hmm.
if they have certain openings available and that recruiter is they're aware of what's
Mm-hmm.
open, they're going to try to fill those spots based on what their quota is that they have to meet. So if
They'll just slide you
they'll
wherever
slide you.
is convenient towards their bottom line.
Exactly.
Oh man,
Yeah.
what about it being like a male-dominated quote unquote workforce? Is that challenging or
Well, when I joined, you could definitely see that. That was,
okay?
very apparent, even though, there was, they're obviously not going to advertise that, but it was definitely, a thing.
Mm,
So now I would say that with, different movements that have been happening,
yes.
the Me Too movement and other, just,
Mm-hmm.
women in general, women in tech, women,
Yeah.
it's, a lot of doors have definitely
That's what
been
I said. It's a
broken.
woman
Hmm.
empowerment movement. And so like those things, those horror stories that you heard from people that had 20 years in, like, there's always something that can happen, but
Hmm.
I think the dynamics has changed and it sounds like that's what you're saying too.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, good. So you did your 4 years. I always ask my veterans this, I don't know how many different places you've been, but if money was no object and you can just go there, retire, live the rest of your life, what part of the world would you go?
That's a great question. And I have traveled quite a bit. And I was just in South America last year. I spent about a month
Nice.
there. It was
Hmm.
beautiful. I was on the coast the whole time.
Hmm.
So right now, I would say at this point, I would probably head back there.
Nice. Nice.
Um, and if and I'm not sure if you know, like in Ecuador, that's where I was.
Hmm.
There's a huge expat population there.
Really?
Yeah, so there are a lot of
Oh,
Americans there,
oh
Brits,
wow.
Australians, Canadians. They're all there
Nice.
too. Yeah.
But man, that sounds beautiful. I mean, I went to Panama last summer and I'm definitely like, oh man, this is nice, but it was pretty expensive. I didn't know Panama City and Panama was like so metropolitan. I guess that's the second hub next to Switzerland where like financial institutes pop up. We can clean your money, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so
So Ecuador, as far to my understanding, I guess in the 90s they
mhm,
had some, economic issues and the
right.
United States somewhat bailed them out, I guess. So
Uh,
they have adopted our dollar. So I don't know
hmm.
if Americans are aware of that, but like yeah, when you go there, there's no exchange.
Is it expensive to you compared to us?
No, 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 no,
Oh,
not at all. I mean,
oh.
so like it's almost like the pricing that we would have had or the
Mhm.
price points we would have had like in the 80s or 90s or something. Like you
Wow.
could still get a really nice haircut for like $4 over
Okay,
there.
that may be the visit this summer. Look how she's stunning on us real quick, Wes. Like, spent the whole year in Ecuador. Like, how? But anyway, let's stay on track. We'll get to that. So after the military, so obviously you learned some skills. Um, One last takeaway before we leave the military chapter in your life. What was the biggest takeaway or the biggest thing you think you've learned from the armed services?
Um, I mean, besides that, what they drill into us, which is, the integrity, the, sense of service for your country and, all of that. I think, but for me individually, it was just, you really don't understand how strong you are as a person, like
Mm,
until you face certain challenges. So challenge and change is good, like
mhm.
that's what it taught me is that, so don't shy away from, the opportunity for change and opportunity for challenge because that's really going to show you who you really are as a person.
Those are key words. I like that. I like that. So you finished, you honorable discharge.
Mhm.
what did you do next? What was life like?
So since at that point, primarily my experience was within the hospital. I stayed within that setting.
Okay.
But I moved to still within administration, but I moved to the credentialing and
Mhm.
recruiting side of things, and we're an insurance side of things for
Okay.
a little while.
What
And
state was this? What state did you go to after you moved?
I stayed in Europe for a while.
Ah,
Yeah, I was over there
nice.
for a total of 7 years.
Whoa.
hmm
What was that like? I mean, compare Europe and being an American citizen. Like, what's the difference with the pros and cons? What do you think?
I did kind of immerse myself in their culture, and I
Hmm.
didn't, because we did have the access to the military base, and you could still be over there, but still, feel like an American for the most
Yeah.
part. But I didn't do that. I still made a lot of great friends, and
Hmm.
definitely got an opportunity to see what, all the different cultures there. I traveled to
Nice.
most of Western Europe, so
So you
um,
emerged in the culture
yeah.
of Western Europe. Wow. But that wasn't on your list to like go and retire. So it's
Yeah, I'm a beach girl. I love the sun.
yes.
I mean, it's in my blood, you could say
Island
even,
girl.
right? Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. All right.
yeah.
Got it. Got it. So you stayed there for 6 years. Was that like when you started your career and in the medical field? You went there or you started that here?
So that's actually where I did get my first introduction into the whole, med spa
Mhm.
slash just spa world in general. So
Mm.
there's in Germany, they have a lot of what they call
Wow.
bath houses, and they have a lot
Mm.
of, that was my first like introduction into the world of aesthetics and just,
Mm.
spa services in general.
Mm.
And yeah, so it was really amazing just seeing, how, first of all, a practitioner or a provider that is well versed in their craft,
Mhm.
that how they can change someone's life. As far as
Mhm.
when you see your client or your patient walk in and they have, this kind of demeanor, they don't even want to be on camera or anything. And then you see them walk
Right.
out and you could see the
The
confidence level
confidence just
just,
rises,
yeah,
huh?
it's a really good feeling. Yeah.
Nice, nice. So a bathhouse. I think I went to one. I don't know what it was called, and I heard like something about P Diddy at a Turkish bathhouse, but I don't want to get into that. Like, is that where? I went to this spa and it was like Roaring Dragon or something in Dallas. Got a massage. I didn't know what I was walking into, so I ordered it in advance. And we went into this area, all the guys, just like locker room. We take off our clothes and we all got in this huge hot tub.
Mhm.
Is that what the bathhouse
It
is?
is very much like that. And that's one of the first things I notice is that, the stigma of, just sexuality and just, the natural human form with without
Hmm.
us being without clothing or whatever.
Right.
Here in the States, and I'm sure for obvious reasons, we're
Hmm.
a little bit more private. Everything is gated off and closed
Yeah.
off. And, you kind of separate between the different genders, but there everybody's together. So
Hmm.
when you go into the bathhouse, you know, there everybody's it's just
Yeah, I didn't talk to anybody. I was like, what the hell is going on? But I mean, I just tried to embrace it. But I was just having that conversation with a friend that, even like growing up in the 80s, Europe had always seen, even their commercials had a level of nudity. It wasn't so taboo
Mhm.
like it was here in the States. Is that kind of what you
Yes,
saw?
absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's you go and you're for the most part. And another thing too is most of the people that were there. I mean, there were families there too, but most of them are like a little bit older. So at the time, I
Okay.
was in my maybe mid 20s. So
Oh, you
you
were a
know,
baby.
so I walk in and I'm like, and everybody, and especially also being a black woman there, you
Hmm.
don't see that as often either. So like
Right.
immediately it was like everyone's eyes are on you because it's not as common to see a black person there in general.
Hmm.
And then of course my age as well. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's like a status thing. I noticed when I went in the bathhouse, like it looks like CEOs. It was like
hmm
prestigious dudes in there, like butt ass naked. So, I was like, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
this is something you do when you get to the
All
top. But
right.
anyway, off the bathhouse stuff, I don't want to get in trouble. Um, so, okay, 6 years there. Is there any key things that you could say you took away from your time in Europe?
Um, wow, yeah, that was definitely interesting. So my key thing there was I knew that first of all I had a passion for
Mm,
just aesthetics and just that
mhm,
industry in general.
mhm,
And then also just about and I know this is a big topic lately, is diversity and just, being able to include everyone. Because I saw that where there was definitely a gap between, like I was saying about mentioning being the only Black person so certain services, that it catered to a certain, type of individual. Like you said, sometimes it was the, older CEO type, or maybe it was a certain ethnicity or a certain skin color. So I always said, if I started a company, I would want to make sure that everyone felt comfortable, and I would make sure that myself and my staff were all trained to be able to handle any person that walk in the door.
Let me ask you this: being Black in Europe and like being in places where that, back then diversity, equity, and inclusion wasn't a thing, it may have been less inclusion in certain spots. Was there a similar feeling to what it's like being a minority here in this country, or was it totally different?
It was different for sure. Okay. I think a lot of it was more so. There wasn't necessarily like a kind of any feeling towards like hatred, anything like that, but it was more so curiosity, like, oh, like, okay, this is different, and so, and then also a sense of fear too, because they weren't familiar with, how to really.
People are afraid of what's different sometimes.
Exactly,
so,
exactly. But definitely not a hatred kind of feeling.
Okay, so got it. I got it. So, so that was your first taste into like the medical spa industry. Did you administer any like, cosmetics, shots? Did you do anything there, or it was just something that, hey, I got treatment myself and I noticed like the industry?
So yeah, I actually, the interest started with collagen induction therapy. Now that we don't use the term as often here in the States now, but people probably know the term more so as like microneedling or so pretty much that's the term that we use. I think they call micro channeling as well too. But back then they were calling it collagen induction therapy, and basically it is damage control of the skin in like layman's terms. So you damage the skin knowing that, the body's going to do all the things to heal itself. Right. And so my interest in that started also because of, at the time when I went into the military, a lot of service members were coming back injured or significantly scarred from injuries that they've had while they were in service. So, part of that whole, besides like just the aesthetic part of it, as far as wrinkles and things like that, this service also, treats severe burns, scars, surgical scars, things like that. So it revises, certain scars and camouflages them as well.
So the body really can regenerate itself, and obviously it'll heal. But is there really like a anti-aging device out there yet, or is that just all? And I don't know. I don't want you to hurt your business, but like, are there properties in this earth, and I'm assuming it will be, that'll help with anti-aging?
So yes, of course, there are many ways to, to look at that. I mean, from an at-home perspective, I would say that they have at-home devices now with microneedling. I think it's the biggest bang for your buck.
Okay.
If you're looking for something that you can do from home and, it's relatively inexpensive, and you're using your own natural, defense mechanisms to heal yourself.
Wow.
And to rejuvenate your skin and everything. Now, from, if you're going to like a professional or a practitioner, lasers are probably the biggest thing right now.
Lasers are the big thing. Yeah. Okay. I'm jumping ahead because I'm interested in trying to figure out how to get rid of some of these wrinkle lines. I'll catch you after the show out for the air. But we're in Europe. Definitely we kind of get an idea of your background there. Then you come to the States. When did you get to Texas?
So immediately after leaving Germany, I came to Texas, and the choice there, and I think it was, I don't know if that was some sort of like intuitive feeling that I had, but, because at that time I was in my late 20s now, and little did I know of the, that there was going to be a recession. Like right after that, there was a recession in 2008. So I didn't even, obviously I didn't know that, but I just knew I went to training from the military in Fort Sam, Houston. So that was part of the interest, because I had already been kind of familiar with Central Texas.
Right.
Austin was cool. And then also, but it was a good decision because it's a pretty stable area at that time, because Florida, where I was raised in Florida, that they took a hit during that time. Yeah.
Yeah, Austin was a little bit ahead of the curve
Mm-hmm.
compared to the rest of the world and the country. I came here around that time, so I saw it, and I can check back with people in different states, and we did get hit with it, but I think we recovered much sooner than a lot of places.
Absolutely. And even though we felt it, it was still more stable than even, let's say, like, New York,
Or somewhere in the
California,
Midwest
right?
or something to
Right.
that effect. Okay, so you came here, and then you started the workforce, right? You were
Yes,
okay.
and it's interesting because I did dabble in real estate for a little bit. I was one of those sales reps that were in the model homes, and so at the time, you didn't have to be a licensed realtor to work in the model home.
Right.
So I did that.
So you did that.
Yeah, and I loved it. But I was also going through a divorce, or like pending divorce at that time.
Right.
So it was just not a stable enough income for me to continue doing that. Because as there's some days where you're raking it in and it's great, right? And then there's some times where
Flat line.
yeah.
And you were married, well, going through a divorce, and you knew that, hey, I'm gonna have to like branch off and do this by myself, right? Did you have your children at that point?
I did, and that became my my priority, was just to do do whatever job that I could do at that time to make sure that I could provide for my family. That was it.
You needed to make sure it was something consistent to make
Right.
sure. Did you always have like the entrepreneurial spirit? I know you have that Jamaican like blood. And so before you even got to what you're doing now, how many different, ventures did you try?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I did venture into cosmetology for a little while, and I was doing nails when I was over there.
Really?
And I also tried different, as far of course I mentioned real estate, also sales. And I was a business development manager for a little while too, for a staffing agency. And that, so, all of these things kind of like, all the different experiences that I had kind of created who I am today.
Right.
So and then I also, I majored in business management.
Okay.
Too, so yeah.
Would you say like one of the common themes to all of those ventures, or just even the one you're doing now, like how important does the word sales impact those fields?
I was just having that conversation this morning with a friend, and sales is vitally important in all of those. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
And life. I mean, you're selling yourself, whether you do want to get a job or whether whatever you want to do, you have to always, I feel like, sell yourself or your skill set or your knowledge to someone. So, but that's good. I kind of see how it all ties in.
I was going to say that was a key point of my conversation this morning, was that even if you're not the best salesman, but you have passion for whatever it is that your product or your service, you're going to be able to sell it that much better. Even I wouldn't consider myself the best salesman, but I know when I have passion for something, then you don't even really have to sell it. It
exudes itself.
Exactly.
People can tell when you're treating them like a dollar, or like, hey, I'm passionate about what I'm telling you about, and I'm educating you. And also, passion and knowledge goes hand in hand. And obviously you had to study, and like this is something that was introduced to your life back in your 20s. So I'm sure you have nearly a master's degree in what you do.
Correct. Yes.
Good. So you have mastered it. That's important. that adds with your passion. So you worked for a while. When I met you, you were working in HR, and you seem like kind of mild mannered and calm and laid back. I didn't know that you were the type of person that had this personality that can build a big network, or even had the courage to stand and talk to people. When you were working, at some point you were like, hey, I have this skill set. It's time for me to show it off. What was the turning point that made you want to do that?
Well, this year in particular, my children, which I have to give a shout out to them,
Yes.
Nathan and Jaden. They are my pride and joy, and I'm so honored to have been able to raise them and
Right.
be their mother, and they are very successful.
That's
So
good.
it's so that was part of the thing that drove me. It's like, okay, so what's next? Because for the last, 20 plus years, my entire focus has been, how do I get these kids to, get to where they
Mhm.
need to be? And so now that I've accomplished that, they're
Mhm.
graduating this year, they're heading off to, their different universities. And so I'm like,
Good.
what's next? What's next for me?
Mm.
So that was the biggest question. And then so I spent a good part of the last year and a half just trying to figure that out. Like, okay,
Mm.
now that I've, accomplished this, what's going to make me happy? So
Right.
that's really the driver that, I said, okay, not only am I just going to just be working because it's a career path that is
Mhm.
lucrative and I, able to provide for my family. Now, what can I do now that actually makes me happy,
Uh-huh.
that I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life? And here we are in, aesthetics.
That's
Yeah.
crazy how it all went full
Yeah.
circle. You
Yeah.
were known as that girl in high school, and you saw this in Europe, and it attracted you to it. And now 360, when you're looking at, hey, what am I passionate about? What can I do that I know and I'm really serious about? And it's leading you back to aesthetics of, cosmetics and just beauty and making people feel good.
Mhm.
That is interesting. Wow. It's good to talk to you and connect the dots to that
Mhm.
circle. So as far as your business now, um, a lot of times I talk to entrepreneurs, and me, I'm an accounting major. So I always tell business owners and entrepreneurs, like, obviously sales is important, passion, but business finance, what can you tell us about the importance of mastering that?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the expert because I'm definitely not. But
Okay.
the first thing I did was make sure you have a plan and you
Hmm.
have a good platform in place. So good,
Mm.
software, good tools that are going to, keep you, first of all, compliant, and
Right. So
then
like your back office, right?
right,
Huh.
right, and then also, a good CPA or an accountant or tax person
That's
to,
good.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
And also, I mean, understanding that when you make $1 with your business, that doesn't mean that's $1 towards your personal life.
right.
Like you have to reinvest in your business and maybe pay yourself a salary. And I think the lines get blurred with that with a lot of entrepreneurs. It's like, oh, I just made my first 2 sales. I made 40,000 or whatever it may be. I want to buy me a new car, I can pay off some debt. But wait a minute, what about the business? It's a breathing, living entity.
Mhm.
You have to feed it, and you have to feed it money so it can grow. So, did you have to learn that the hard way, or is that something that your education and your history has always taught you?
I didn't have to learn it the hard way, luckily, because I did have some background knowledge, and then also, as far as like the investing in the company,
Hmm.
I was, I since I've had several years to, put
Hmm.
some things to the side, I was able to have enough funding for it to be able to self fund, or so I didn't need investors and things
Right.
like that. So
Good.
yeah, so I'm, as far as when the revenue when the money starts coming back in, yeah,
You were able to take a chance on yourself, though.
right,
That was
right.
huge. That was huge. So you mentioned like you took like a year or so off, and did this like idea hit you like at 3 o'clock in the morning or something, or was it something that you kind of knew, but now I just have to figure out how to make it work?
Right. Yes, it did kind of hit me like that. I knew it was coming. I just
Hmm.
didn't know when that final launch was going to be, happen.
Uh,
So it was another friend of mine, a very close friend. We've been friends for a very long time.
hmm.
And, she said, hey, there's a class that's being offered right now. And, if we
Mm.
get, and we both considered, careers in this, or going this route.
Uh-huh.
So she told me about it and I said, hey, let me take it. And I did. And it was just like, after that, it came, everything just
Hmm.
fell right in
It felt
place.
right. You
Yeah.
just knew like
Yeah.
this is it. Did you have a coach or a mentor to help, or you just kind of put it together?
No, this is
Ah.
years. I feel like this has been just as far as a trajectory in
Hmm.
life, everything kind of like culminated to where I am today.
Mm.
So all the knowledge between, what I learned in Germany, what I learned at University of Maryland as far as business, what I learned at,
Mhm.
the different jobs that I've had, throughout
Wow.
the whole time. It's all like kind of culminated to where we are right
Ah.
now. That's allowed me between business development and HR and working with, directly with CEOs. So I know how to speak to, different levels of
Wow.
management and all of that. So Yeah. So I didn't really, so when it came down to it, I didn't even have to do a whole lot of, getting mentors and things like, because
You were prepared
I was
for it.
prepared.
Man, I just
definitely
totally
was.
skipped over that part. You have a business degree at from University of Maryland?
Yes,
Oh
yes.
wow. Dang, look at that. So kids, education does count. Like don't neglect that. I mean, it's not for everyone, but I think it's just a huge piece to be
Mhm.
able to have that accomplishment, the skill set. Your mentors were probably some of the professors that you encountered.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
good. So Bella Vista, like how did you come up with that name?
So in Italian, it means beautiful view.
Ah, nice.
And so I would like to have some property. I already have some property personally that has a beautiful view,
Yes,
but
indeed.
eventually I'd like to have a storefront that has a beautiful view.
Oh,
So, yeah.
amazing, amazing. So you can help people with their beauty while they're looking at a beautiful view. What is one of the things that you mentioned it early before, but I just kind of want to reiterate it now that you're giving this and giving this hope to people. When people walk out of a session with you, what are the things that you notice that make you feel good about what just happened, the experience in totality?
Well, the first thing is everything, the approach that I take is very individualized. So
Mm,
when you walk in, regardless, like I said, of, what your previous encounters have been, I
hmm
take the time to find out what your concerns are, what you're trying to achieve, what your goal is.
hmm
And then also, making sure that all of those things are realistic as well.
Right.
And then, we come up with a treatment plan that's going to be specific and customized to what the final results you're looking for.
Nice, nice. Well, how do you feel like you get most of your business?
So right now, it seems like a lot of my business is coming from either like organically, because
Uh-huh.
through where
Word
my
of
current
mouth.
location is, or
Oh.
also through Google. So my
Hmm.
Google profile, I get a lot of clicks on that, and 50% of my clients are coming in through that.
So, I mean, I'm gonna touch a nerve right here. Not too much of a nerve, but we are in Texas, right? And you are a black woman in this field, and I haven't met a lot of black women in this particular in the medical aesthetics. What kind of challenges do you see?
Oh no, that's a really great question. And I think it's a great time, especially
Hmm.
to be in this field, because
Hmm.
it's growing, and it's
Hmm.
they're expanding in a way that hasn't been seen before.
Right.
Because before, like I said, a lot of the treatment and the services were
Hmm.
geared towards more something that was more Eurocentric.
Right.
So now, we're seeing that there was a huge gap, and there still is, as far as, what's available to women of color, people of
Mm.
color in general. So a lot of products, a lot of services, a lot of techniques have now been, changed, or, advanced in a way that we can
Mm.
accommodate, other skin types as well.
That part.
And, in our skin type specifically, it's more challenging,
Because some people keloid up
hmm
from
hmm
like, any kind of injury or puncture to their
hmm
skin. It's funny because you said it was more Eurocentric, and in my mind, I'm thinking like, people come to get cheekbones or lips like yours, but then for us, there may be other things that may fuel us or may provide us that sense of beauty. Is
hmm
there a difference from the different nationalities and what they want, or do you feel like it's similar?
Well, the first thing is, I would say, is that, there aren't as many products. So just like the availability of those
Oh
products.
yeah.
So I see that now as an opportunity for me to branch out and expand too as well.
Mm,
But as far as like, what I see that, people of color, what they're requesting
mhm,
is just more access to things, first of all. And then also, just education wise too, even that,
mhm.
there just isn't as many,
Yeah.
and then also to just more a holistic and natural approach. I know that's a
Ah,
huge,
yes.
market. We want to use products that
Mhm.
are, not going to be
Not gonna harm you.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I've heard some horror stories maybe 10 years back. I mean, the booty is like the new cleavage. I see people wearing shorts that show like, the cuffs of their butts and whatever. I admire a woman's beauty. I don't feel like that's a violation. Like you should be able to do what you want to do. But I remember hearing that people used to like inject women with concrete rubber or fix a flat, like whatever, to try to get their butts big, and people were dying.
Yeah.
Obviously you take more of a medical approach. What do you say to the person that comes in so desperate, ready to do something to themselves to give them that confidence that it may lead to their demise or something that is unhealthy?
Well, that's so I kind of, and I'm still in the process of developing a weight loss program, and it's a collaboration between the some nurse practitioners that provide weight loss management medication, and then
Right.
also some personal trainers. And then where I come in is, as far as the aesthetics, is to make sure the skin stays intact during this whole time.
Ah.
So I kind of preach that message that, even though, clearly there's influence in the market to have a certain look as far as your body is concerned. Try to do it the natural approach first if you can, just by working out, eating healthy, all of those things. Love yourself, love what you naturally have. If whether that be, a curvy girl or a slimmer girl.
Right.
And trends change, obviously. So for a while that was a big trend to have this, the hourglass figure with the big booty and the
Right.
the BBLs and all that kind of stuff. And then now I feel like that trend is slowly kind of
Kinda
going away.
changing,
Yeah.
yeah, so
So we're going back to kind of, I think it's more of like a skinny fit look. So it's not like, it's not
small waist,
right.
huge, but and people want to cheat. Like they're like, hey, the squats won't cut it.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like DNA is DNA. Like if your mom and all your aunts have big butts, you may have a chance. But if everybody is pretty slim, like, and I feel like there's only so much like your bones can possibly take. Like,
Yeah.
being natural is the key. But I like what you said. I like that you said that I'm going to add, somebody like a trainer or somebody to help you work out, a nurse practitioner. So you're covering a lot of basics of safety, but sustainability, like, hey, nutrition, like all these things. Like you're not just going to come in here and I'm going to give you a quick fix and you think that this is going to solve all the problems. Like there's a multitude of things that you have to combine to sustain it. And
Exactly.
so I like
And
that
then
approach.
where you can't, there's going to be some times where, there's going to be a line for sure is where, how far what you can do naturally for yourself. But if you've
Right.
already taken those steps and, hey, this is as good as
working.
it's going to get, then that's where, you can get help like from that. Yeah.
Perfect. Tell the people all the services that you offer at Bella Vista.
So right now we have the cosmetic injectables. So it's going to be our neuromodulators like Botox, Zomin, Juvo, as far as wrinkle release or wrinkle relaxers. And then we have dermal fillers. So we have different products there too, Juvederm, Restylane, that we use for mostly in the mid face and cheek and chin area, but we also do lip augmentations as well too.
Oh,
So lip
nice.
filler as well. And then we have the permanent makeup. So we have so it's going to be lip blushing, it's called. And so
Wow.
that's using a tattoo,
So you can have like a permanent, like, lip makeup, lipstick. You don't have to constantly worry about it getting on your man's white shirt.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can
that's
just wake
cool.
up looking like you have a full, makeup
Wow.
on. And there's also some eyebrows that we can do as well, as far as like augmenting the eyebrows to look. And I have to touch on that too. I have a special place for veterans and cancer survivors. So
nice.
and that's also something I get, like, saying in the past, that really drove me to want to, continue in this industry, is that, there are a lot of veterans that were significantly,
Injured or
Yeah.
oh yeah, I can see
So,
that.
yeah. So as part of that too is the paramedical tattooing. So, if you have a scar that needs some revising or camouflage, we can do that as well with tattooing. And then also for cancer survivors, if you have surgery like the double mastectomy, they remove quite a bit of tissue.
Yes.
And so when they do the reconstruction, they'll put the implants back in. And then so my part is where I would reconstruct the areola once the implant was
Nice.
placed.
Nice. Is there I mean, I'm sure there is. How much of it is a level of, you mentioned self-love, but you as the practitioner or the person that's going to administer and give the plans, how much of it is you, preaching the self-love or, the acceptance? Because I feel like not across the board, but I've seen shows where people do some kind of cosmetic stuff to themselves and it becomes addicting. Like they want to look like the filter on TikTok. Like they want to keep going and they're never happy. Like what do you do when you encounter someone
And
like that?
that's absolutely true. And I'm glad you mentioned that with the about the filter because I've
Hmm.
seen a lot of my clients are getting younger and younger. And so at first you would think, oh, this is anti-aging, right?
Yeah.
But they're not coming in for anti-aging. They're coming in to kind of change the shape of their face altogether.
Oh
And
wow.
so yes, this kind of body dysmorphia is
Hmm.
increasing because of the filters. They want to look more like what they're seeing when they take a picture. And
Hmm.
and that's not a jab at anybody. We're
Yeah.
all victims of that
Yeah, no
because it's
doubt.
technology and it's there and it's easy. But so we do have when I have someone come in, and that's really a part of having a good consultation is
Mm,
to make sure, their reason behind wanting the change,
mm,
which, it's not for me to judge necessarily why they want
right.
it, but just making sure that it's realistic,
Mm,
because when you have a filter, for instance, those it's AI, it's going to
yeah.
change things. And so when, the thing is that when you do change something and I can give you more higher cheekbones, I can give you a more balanced, or some facial balancing to
Uh-huh.
make sure things are, a little bit more in alignment. But, it's never going to be like that filter.
Never gonna be
Exactly.
perfect. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I tend to like the imperfect things that, that's placed on a person, a woman in particular. Like the imperfections to me is like, hey, you have stretch marks, but you're a mom. That's beauty to me. And then everybody, I can't project what I feel like is beauty onto someone else. Everyone
Mhm.
is entitled to feel or do what they need to do to boost their confidence. I know when I get out of the shower and I look in the mirror, I'm like, man, I need to X this, I need, but it's a part of this human experience. But I'm glad that you take the approach that you do. And I think more professionals probably should take that approach. But right now we're talking about Bella Vista Aesthetics. And so I want you to tell people where they can find out more about your business.
Sure. So I have a website, www.bellavista with two A's at the end.com. Then I'm also on Instagram. It's at underscore Bella Vista aesthetic or Bella Vista underscore aesthetics.
Mhm.
And then also, if you just Google Bella Vista aesthetics is there. But yeah, that's, kind of,
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a little marketing too, so that's also key.
yeah.
That's key. If there's someone out there that wants to be an entrepreneur, whether it's in the industry that you're in or any other, because you've explored a few, like what words of advice could you give them?
So definitely don't ever stop dreaming. Because I
Mm,
think that once you stop doing that, you start to lose purpose.
mm,
You start to lose, that momentum that's going to keep you going. So for me, once I realized that, I really stopped looking at what makes you happy, what makes you want to get out of bed in the morning, you know, keep that in the forefront at all times.
nice.
And then, there are going to be challenges and bumps in the road for sure, but have some perseverance, stick with it,
Hmm.
remember what your purpose was and what your mission was, and keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
That's consistency and persistence. One last thing before I let you go. I have two words. I just want to see, like, there's a point in the show where we'll give like three words, but I'm gonna give you two words, and I just want to see, what's the first thing that comes to mind. Failure.
Ooh. The first word that comes to mind is, I mean, I don't know why the word good comes to mind because you know
Mm,
what? You if you don't fail, sometimes you're not gonna learn. So
yes.
failing is good. It's not a bad don't be afraid of failure. Yeah.
I always say every education comes at a cost. I
Yeah.
mean, you didn't go to University of Maryland. Probably you didn't go for free unless you had a scholarship and you had to sacrifice to get that. So failure is definitely a way to learn. And then what about success?
Oh my gosh. it's, I don't know, the word unlimited came to mind when you said that, because it's uncapped. I mean, you really, that definition, it varies per person, but you can go anywhere. I mean, really, and you really can. Yeah.
I love that, Jeneice. I appreciate you coming to the show, sharing your experiences. As your business continues to grow, I definitely want to have you back on. I've learned a lot of things about you today that I'm like, wow, she's like a really interesting woman and has a lot of experiences and has a lot to share. So I definitely want to get you back again, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you tuning in. Share this story, comment on this story. Bella Vista Aesthetics is here in Central Texas and Round Rock, Texas, right?
Rock.
What's the address again?
So it's 1700 East Palm Valley Boulevard in Round Rock, and it's in the HEB Plaza for those of you who are local.
Nice.
And hopefully some more other locations will be coming up soon. So
They will. I know how you grind. But again, I thank you all. Tune in again. And as far as Boss Up with Mr. Key is another episode, and that's a wrap.